This video is going to compare the Certified Arborist, Board Certified Master Arborist, and Registered Consulting Arborist labels / certifications as they relate to consulting. I'm going to probably use BCMA or Master Arborist for the Board Certified Master Arborist. I'm going to use RCA instead of Registered Consulting Arborist and just use Certified Arborist. So the Certified Arborist is the lowest rung certification credential that you should have if you want to do any kind of consulting. The type of client who is going to look for a consulting arborist probably has some knowledge of what these credentials or certifications are, and they're going to know to look for that. It also puts you in the directory for the ISA, or the International Society of Arboriculture, where a client can look for their zip code or their city, and you will pop up if you're within their search filters. So on that directory, it also says all the ISA certifications you have, and that's one way of getting more business. I do get clients from that directory. Cities will also require you be a certified arborist before you submit any arborist reports. There are certain cities that are a little bit more restrictive. In my area, there is one city, I can't remember the name, but they require either a Master Arborist or a RCA. I believe Los Angeles, either county or city, requires an RCA to submit arborist reports. So unless your city or the cities that you work in explicitly require the BCMA or the RCA, you technically don't have to have that to do consulting. I was doing consulting for about 7 years without either of those, and I had no issues aside from that one city that I mentioned. I just didn't work there. The reason why the certified arborist is required is because it shows a bare minimum of knowledge. It means that you have learned about tree bio, soil, water, all kinds of things related to tree care, and the certification is an official recognition of that. What I find limiting about the certified arborist credential, sorry, I'm just going to keep calling it a credential, is that even if you're on the ISA directory, the client doesn't know necessarily that you can do consulting. It doesn't distinguish on first look what services you offer. It's going to be really hard for them to look through this directory that doesn't allow you to search based on whether someone does consulting or not. The Board Certified Master Arborist certification is probably the highest generic level certification that the ISA has. And I say generic because there are plenty of other certifications that I wouldn't necessarily say they're easier. Maybe you can qualify for them sooner, but climber specialist, I don't climb. Utilities, municipal, I don't do any of those. So it doesn't make sense for me to get those certifications. There's stuff like track, that's a qualification for tree risk. But in terms of actual certifications, the Master Arborist is kind of the next one. I don't remember the specific requirements, but I believe you have to at least be a certified arborist for a certain amount of time. And there's various ways of getting 8 points. I believe the master's degree that I got was 3 points. Then you get 1 point per certain number of excess CEUs that you get during your 3-year period. Then you could be an RCA and get 3 points. So there's ways for you to cobble your experience together to sit for the Master Arborist. For me, back then when I first became a certified arborist, I was like, hell yeah, I could go and get my RCA, do this, and then sit for the Master Arborist, and I could do it having only 1 year of experience, you know? And I actually have met other people who are trying to game the system that way, and maybe it works for other people, but to me, having a certification doesn't mean a lot unless, let's say, your company's gonna pay you more for it, you're going to feel more confident having it. Yeah, to me, being someone who's academically inclined, as long as I'm allowed to take a test, I'm going to pass it. So it feels a little bit sillier. And I'm glad that I waited as long as I did to get that. I'm not going to go into detail about the test because, frankly, I didn't study for it. I barely passed. I had heard from people that it's very hard to study for because of the diversity of it. And you might as well take the test, figure out what areas you fail in, study those areas, and then take it again. I have been a master arborist for maybe 2 or 3 years now. The benefit of it is that it sounds more prestigious. I believe the statistic is that 2% of certified arborists hold the BCMA. Sounds more impressive to say shorthand, oh, she's a master arborist. I have definitely gotten jobs over other arborists because they saw my master arborist. I think if I had actually sat and studied, I think that would make the difference because I would actually read all those books I was supposed to. Lastly, the RCA. So the RCA is the only thing, at least within the United States, that fully distinguishes a consulting arborist from any other arborist. It's officially a level of membership by ASCA, the American Society of Consulting Arborists. They call it a level of membership. So it's not a credential. You have to renew your membership every single year. You can't let it lapse for more than 2 years or you lose your number. You should be willing to commit about $600 a year for this. And there are also CEUs that you have to maintain. The benefit of being an ASCA member, just a member, is that you show up in their directory. And to me, it means that someone who's willing to pay the $500 something to be a member is interested in consulting, does want to be part of the organization and to be able to access webinars, conferences, things like that. If you were not going to become an RCA and you're going to do consulting, I would say at least be a member, because I do often will send clients to that directory because I know for sure, compared to the ISA directory, people who are on the ASCA directory are going to be doing consulting. So within that directory, they will also have the RCA label for the people who have RCA. The requirements are kind of like for the BCMA one. Here you can see they do, instead of points, they do approved CEUs, and you need 420 of them since the start of your career. So they really do prioritize formal education. If you have a PhD, you can immediately apply for the RCA. Right when I graduated with master's and I became a certified arborist, and I went to a couple workshops, I was able to sit for this. The first step of the RCA is to go to the consulting academy. You need to write a report before you get there, pass a test while you're there, and then you write another report afterwards. And if you get all those 3 things done, you have officially graduated from the academy. If you have the opportunity to go to the academy, I recommend it. I recommend completing the process because there is a time limit for that last report. And then you can wait for as long as you want to actually do the RCA. It gives you a good foundation about the entire process of consulting. I found that part to be very helpful at the start of my career when I didn't have any guidance for consulting in the first company I was working for. When I moved to the company that I just left last year, just having that academy experience was so helpful. It really got me going really quickly in terms of doing the consulting reports. The process of getting it is not very complicated after you've done the academy. You're just repeating the process of writing 2 reports. I've only been an RCA for a couple of months. I can't say that I've noticed a huge impact so far, but it feels nice to have actually completed it. And I know that should I want to do something like litigation work, more complex consulting, working for cities or larger companies, just having those credentials are going to make me a better candidate. And if a client is looking at the ASCA directory and they're just trying to find someone who is going to be the best fit for their project and they prioritize a lot of achievements, then it naturally sets me apart from other people. The RCA is not as well known as the Master Arborist or the Certified Arborist, so the average person may not know what that actually means, and you certainly do not need the RCA except in certain cities to do any kind of consulting work. Having more credentials or acronyms after your name is never going to hurt as long as you continue to educate yourself as well. Being an RCA does not mean that you're going to be a good consultant. You have to continue improving to set yourself aside from those people who are just following the formula.